and ready to go for the Nations Cup then, for the sprint race here at Monza. Let's see how this one is going to work out. Porsche 962 Group C machines and a no chicane layout. It is going to be absolutely frantic down towards that first braking zone. Sasaki begins this one on pole position with Thomas Laboutelet alongside on the front row of the grid. Row 2 is headed by Kylian Drumont, and he will be joined by Adriano Carrazza, who we know is not afraid of getting his elbows out. Pol Ura heads the third row for Spain with his compatriot Jose Serrano. Those two, you can't seem to separate them pretty much everywhere they go. Kai de Bruyn is next up on the grid in P7 with Takuma Miyazono, the four-time champion for company alongside. Then Angel Inestrosa, tricky qualifying for the Chilean driver. He will have Samuel Cardinal alongside him. The final row of the grid is comprised of Valerio Gallo. His lap time was disallowed in qualifying. Guy Barbara, the only driver who was worse off, courtesy of that spin on his one and only flying lap. So 12 laps, and they're going to tick off pretty quickly here, I reckon.
Yeah, very fast laps around here, lots of slipstreaming action to come. So it isn't just about pure performance, it's about strategy and positioning your car in the right place at the right time. Almost, you kind of don't want to be Sasaki because you're right at the front of the field, you're giving the toe to everyone else. And I pretty much guarantee that he will not be leading the race going down into the first chicane. But Guy Barbara there getting ready. He's got a lot of work to do, Guy Barbara, after that spin in qualifying. But we know he's quick, we know he's punchy. He's going to unleash all of that here to move forward in today's sprint race. Yeah,
and it's all about being smart, isn't it, as well? You've got to, it's all well having the pace, but you've got to make sure you use it at the right time. And, you know, making sure that you use brains over brawn really is the important factor here. So let's see what will happen then. We're ready to go for the sprint race of the Gran Turismo Nations Cup for the World Series here in Berlin. Takuma Sasaki is going to lead the field towards the timing line, and who will be claiming the checkered flag of the all-important pole position when we go racing then. So Sasaki leads them into the green flag as we go with Laboutelet and Drumont for company behind. So through in towards what would have been the first chicane, the first braking zone, but now we head into an acceleration zone and we blast in towards the Curva Grande for the first time. And look at the slipstream already coming into effect here for the drivers behind. Sasaki, of course, is punching that hole in the air in front for the drivers, and Laboutelet is trying to take profit of it. He's having a look on the inside into the Della Roggia, no way through for there. It closes up quite a lot in the sort of first half of that, but nobody making a dive bomb to the inside.
Yeah, a couple of position changes, but not many. Gallo up to P10, Kai de Bruyn up to P6, Drumont now, as you watch him go through the Lesmos. Exit out of here is super important now, up towards the Ascari complex. And is that someone sideways in the background? Probably. These things have over 700 horsepower delivered to those rear wheels. No TC, of course, back in the 80s, just how it should be as we come through Ascari. Now Laboutelet has fallen off the back of Sasaki a little bit, really strong through the middle was Sasaki, but of course he's only 6 tenths ahead, which means he's going to be drawn back in using the slipstream. On board now with Adriano Carrazza, a veteran to these events. He's having a look over his shoulder there. Will he go for a move here? Drumont, will he stay where he is? Stays there for now. I mean, it's a long race this, so a lot of time to make his moves.
Sort of ends up being a bit of a slipstreaming train, this, doesn't it, here, really? And it's a case of who's going to be able to take advantage of it. There's a big sausage curve there on the outside. You can see Adriano Carrazza, most experienced driver, also the oldest driver in the Gran Turismo World Series, and we mean that to no discredit to him at all. 36 years of age, and hopefully he'll be able to use that wise head of his to good use. Let's see what happens as we come down towards the first corner for the first time at Racing Speed. Well, Pol Ura is taking advantage with 3 abreast in the background there as well. Ura and Carrazza side by side through the Curva Grande. Carrazza's going to have the inside line here, and it might open the door here for Kai de Bruyn, who sends it to the inside into the Della Roggia. Can he get 2 for the price of 1? He can. Kai de Bruyn, you buy 1 there and you get 1 free, but he's on the outside. He's onto the curb, onto the rough stuff. Ura's there still, ready to pick his pocket, but nothing doing there for him. Kai de Bruyn muscles his way up and into 4th place.
What a bit of opportunistic driving there from Kai de Bruyn. 2nd to 4th in 1 move. Fantastic. We're used to seeing stuff like this from him. He's not afraid to make the big move, is Kai de Bruyn. But now, of course, having had that little squabble, that's let that top 3 move away slightly. So now maybe they need to think about working together a little bit to reel them back in again. Jose Serrano, your winner last time out in London, in P7 right now, dropping a place from his starting position and maybe just not quite looking as aggressive as he needs to be so far. Maybe just thinking about things, and now he's looking for a move on Carrazza. They're going to be side by side down to the Parabolica. Serrano later on the brakes, up into P6 he goes. Carrazza there tries the cutback, runs into the back of Serrano. Luckily, no spin there.
It might also allow an opportunity for Gallo to attack as well. So this is Karatza versus Jura side by side. But look at Kai de Bruyne using the double slipstream to great effect to the inside of Karatza, to the inside of Jura, over the curb, bit of contact at the mid, but somehow just about keeps it on the straight and narrow on the curb there, as well as Labutale has now switched places with Sasaki for the race lead. We come through the Curva Grande, and is Sasaki going to repay the favour on the Frenchman as we head in towards the De La Roggia? Nothing doing there for him, but if they start squabbling, that's going to bring the likes of De Bruyne, Jura, Serrano, all who are close behind, right back into play, and it might present a door opening here for Kylian Drumont, who's just keeping his powder dry for now.
Thing is, it is super tempting to make that move back again. You think, yeah, you know what, I've just been overtaken, how dare they? I'm going to take that place back and get my position back. But you do that, you end up having this little fight, unnecessary fight, and you're not on the racing line, you're not taking the best line around the circuit. It means people behind you gain and people in front of you pull away. So it's good just to think about your moves sometimes. Go there, clocking the fastest lap. Here is the overtake. Not too dramatic, just using the slipstream. Through goes Labutale.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Labutale didn't manage to make that move before he could timing line there as well. So that's something to note, especially as we come on to the final stages of this race. So if you're in the slipstream, depending on how close you are coming out that final corner, getting past before you take the checkered flag may not be a possibility. Now, what can Kylian Drumont do? Sits there in third place. Look at it behind as well. Jura versus De Bruyne. They're now side by side down the start-finish straight. Jura's got the outside line, which, of course, we'll switch to the inside line when we come through into the braking zone. But I don't think he's going to need to really wait until we go into the De La Roggia because he's got so much momentum through the Curva Grande and chops the nose off of Kai de Bruyne, who has no opportunity but to get out of the throttle. Serrano's there ready to try and pounce here as well. Can the two Spaniards work together? What about Gallo and Karatza there in the background as well? So Jura's now through into fourth, De Bruyne down into fifth, Serrano into sixth, Gallo in seventh and Karatza in eighth. But Jura's picked up a small penalty there, presumably for track limits, and that is going to drop him back and compromise him quite hugely because look at how many cars are line astern behind him.
Yes, it's a 1 second penalty, and the way that's applied, when you get to the penalty line, the car basically goes full on the brakes. The car goes, so people behind you don't go flying into the back of you, because that would be a bit problematic. But it's more than a second, especially around here when it's such a high-speed course. I mean, here we go. The bar will fill up. When we get to the line, the brakes will be applied, and you'll see for yourself just how devastating even a 1 second penalty is in these races. Here we go.
Yep, so moves off the racing line there, does Paul Jura, and the rest of the field are just going to come streaming through, and his heart is going to drop to his boots, unfortunately, and his position will as well. Down to ninth place there for Paul Jura. Sasaki back in front of Labutale, meanwhile, at the sharp end of this one. And making a break in this race is going to be particularly difficult. As we said, no points on offer, just to remind you. This is all to decide the grid for the grand final. But of course, if you've got that clear view down towards the first corner in what is going to be a particularly long grand final race, it will just give you that little bit more confidence. But Labutale there is ready to pick his pocket and does so. Through the Curva Grande, the Frenchman now back in front once more.
Yeah, we'll see a bit of this now into the last few laps. Just trying to position your car in the right place at the right time. And you might think, oh, why do they keep overtaking each other? It's because they get something called a slipstream or a draft, where if you drive behind the car in front of you, you don't face that same air resistance that they do, and you're able just to go faster, basically. You're able just to accelerate a bit quicker. Oh, Gallo and Mierzono. We've not mentioned Mierzono at all in this race, have we? Mierzono started in P8, up to P7 now, and slowly starting to make his way through the grid, but yeah, a little bit anonymous in this one to give Mierzono.
A bit anonymous so far in the Nations Cup at all, really. He's only had 1 point after, of course, only one round in the championship, but yeah, it hasn't particularly been anything to write home about. I mean that with the greatest of respect, given the performances that we've seen from him, especially in the Manufacturers' Cup over the years as well, and also here in the Nations Cup as well. So let's hope that this is the weekend where we start seeing Takuma Miyazono's real pace shining through. He's now side by side here with Adriano Karatza. He's got the overspeed, he's got the inside line, and he's back through and into sixth place with a lovely move on the brakes there.
Yeah, decisive on the brakes there, but again, you have to think maybe slowing up the cars behind him. The gap between him and Serrano, 1.3 seconds, that's outside the drafting range, and he has 3 cars behind him. Karatza, Jura and Gallo, all incredibly fast people, just all thinking that I need to be first, I need to be leading this train. It's difficult sometimes to manage that ego.
Oh, look at this. Drumont is ready to try and pounce here on Sasaki. He's got great straight line speed, but just had to get out the throttle there through the Curva Grande, didn't he? just trying to find his way through on the outside. The problem is, of course, that corner then becomes a bit of a tighter radius, and you can't make it through with the same amount of speed that you would have been carrying would you have been on the normal racing line. The upshot is that Drummond not able to make an overtaking attempt. Serrano's got a 1 second penalty there as well. That'll be down to track limits, so Serrano is going to face the same bother as his compatriot, who's managed to recover to 6th place after dropping down to 9th for the same discretion earlier on.
Now, I've noticed Kai de Bruyn's got a really, really effective line through the chicane, through that De La Rosa chicane there, just because he seems to know exactly where the track limits are. Serrano tried to follow him, slightly outside of that, bam, track limit penalty. You can see because the gap comes down by about half a second every time you go through there. Maybe this will be enough for De Bruyn to get to the back, but he's doing it without help, so it's hard for 4th place to catch up to 3rd.
On board here then with Drummond, on the brakes we go in towards the Parabolica. Serrano then serves that penalty, drops 1 place behind Pole Euro, but that's actually pretty good damage limitation given that penalty. He'll have just darted straight back into the slipstream as soon as he possibly could with Euro, and the upshot is he doesn't lose too much time as a result of that. Guy Barber was given a warning, by the way, for bump drafting. It hasn't particularly made much of an impression on this race down in 12th position. Likewise, Angel Stroza having something of a quiet one as well down in P10. On board here we are with Drummond though. Look at the overspeed he's got there with Sasaki as they come through this fast right-hander, and Sasaki's going to try and defend the line here. Is Drummond going to think about it to the inside? Kind of has a look, but the door's not really ajar there. But De Bruyn, I tell you what, it was a 3-way fight a lap or so ago. It's now become a proper 4-way tussle here.
Yeah, Kai de Bruyn's got pace. He's fast. Here's Karatsa Miyazono, another pass. Euro as well in the background. Like, you're going to make it 3 wide? Is he? Yeah, why not? Let's go 3 wide. Who's that in the background? Is that Gallo? Should we make it 4 wide? Yeah, let's try and make it 4 wide. Gallo in there as well. Freight training. Poor Takuma Miyazono, just a passenger there. And Gallo taking P6 and 7 respectively. Karatsa up to 8th.
Well, Miyazono would have thought he'd left the handbrake on, given the fact that he was to go backwards at such a vast rate of knots, with 3 cars driving past him in the space of a couple of 100 metres. On board here then, while with Kai de Bruyn, who sniffs an opportunity in his first podium in the Gran Turismo World Series. Let's see if this is the result that will be coming his way. You can see the pace that he's got and the ascension that he's made through the field, up 3 places from where he started. Likewise, also Valerio Gallo's had a good run of things. He's up 5 places from where he started to P6, and you just get the sense that Kai de Bruyn just keeping his powder dry, waiting for the right opportunity, and he's going to be there, ready when it matters.
Now, I've always thought Kai de Bruyn has what it takes to win one of his events. He's a really fast guy, but he's just not quite had the complete package. Just up ahead, Sasaki and Drummond have a little bit of side-to-side contact. But as you say, Tom, it's lap 8. Right now, making a lunge of your life isn't really going to mean anything. It's just going to show your hand. So just do this, get close, be close enough to strike. That's all you've got to do, and then figure it all out on that last lap.
I love the detail on those onboard driver POV shots. You can see the turbo boost gauge going up and down like a fiddler's elbow, and you know the drivers soaring away at the wheel as they make their way through this legendary circuit. It is just a fantastic place to go racing, and what a car to do it in, which would have probably been on Monza back in the day in the World Sports Car Championship as it was known back then. I have to say Laboutelet's not been too troubled for the race lead over the last lap or so. He's got 0.6 of a second in his pocket, nothing really to write home about, still very much in slipstreaming range of the trio that are chasing him there behind, but he's again just not been bothered too much over the last couple of laps, and I wonder if he can use that to his advantage to just thwart the challenge for now.
I don't know if you noticed that, but Sasaki actually just pulled out of the slipstream, so he wants to be second right now. Yeah. We're starting to get into the 4D chess moment of this race, but it's going to be between these 4 guys, I think. I'm not sure Euro has the pace to catch up to this little quartet as they go on to start their 9th lap, and everyone's now just trying to figure out, okay, where's the best place to overtake? Where do I want to be leading? Sasaki here thinking, okay, I'll have a go here. So he'll go up into P1, Laboutelet P2. Will Drummond follow him through or not? He might do. He's looking. There goes Drummond as well. Is he going to go for it? He goes for both of them. Drummond decides he wants to lead the race now, and up to P1 goes Kylian Drummond.
Well, now he becomes the hunter to becoming the hunted. So let's see how this works out here for Kylian Drummond, because of course he doesn't have the advantage of that slipstream with the hole being punched in the air in front of him, unlike the other 3 drivers who are behind. So you would imagine that Drummond will be a little bit vulnerable in terms of the lack of straight line speed that he'll be suffering from. There's still 3 laps left to go in this one, so keep an eye out for that gap with Euro. What's he, 2.5 seconds off the back of those 4? If they really do start getting their elbows out and duffing one another up, then it's not out of the realms of possibility. I have to say, I do agree with you. I think it's quite unlikely at the moment. Out of Ascari we go, though, meanwhile. Now, what's the retaliation going to be from the likes of Sasaki and for Labutale? Down the back straight, Sasaki's on the inside line here then, just pulls out the slipstream as he did last time around against Thomas Labutale. So we know that these drivers behind have got the pace and they're just biding their time, waiting for the opportunity. Someone who was waiting for the right opportunity was Kylian Drumont. Double slipstream there, a gap sort of opening on the inside, and then you saw Sasaki go back over to the normal racing line, which allowed the door to be properly opened, and then Drumont just walked through it beautifully.
Yeah, a lot of faith there in his other drivers as we start to get spicy now. Sasaki puts into the grass. Kind of brought there's contact between the two. They're just about staying on the course. 2x2 now to the chicane. Who's to come out on top?
There's Backo by waiting line through with you. An eye out for that gap with Euro. What's he, 2.5 seconds off the back of those four? If they really do start getting their elbows out and duffing one another up, then it's not out of the realms of possibility. I have to say, I do agree with you. I think it's quite unlikely at the moment. Out of Ascari we go, though, meanwhile. Now, what's the retaliation going to be from the likes of Sasaki and for Labutale? Down the back straight, Sasaki's on the inside line here then, just pulls out the slipstream as he did last time around against Thomas Labutale. So we know that these drivers behind have got the pace and they're just biding their time, waiting for the opportunity. Someone who was waiting for the right opportunity was Kylian Drumont. Double slipstream there, a gap sort of opening on the inside, and then you saw Sasaki go back over to the normal racing line, which allowed the door to be properly opened, and then Drumont just walked through it beautifully.
Yeah, a lot of faith there in his other drivers as we start to get spicy now. Sasaki puts into the grass. Kind of brought there's contact between the two. They're just about staying on the course. 2x2 now to the chicane. Who's to come out on top? Kind of brought up to P3. Labutale now back up to the lead. No, it's Drumont. They are the two countrymen hitting each other. Kind of Bruin is now up into P2 and Drumont down to P4. They're starting to see Mick Cazal there watching on thinking, guys, what are you doing? Stop that.
Yeah, you get the impression that this isn't going to be a friendly fight. It's going to be a barroom brawl towards the end of this one, don't you? If that corner was anything to take stock of. Takumi Miyazono's just lost another place, by the way. He's down into 9th position. Again, just not a particularly brilliant race there for him. And Gallo's charge looks to have stalled in 6th position as well. He's about half a second off the back of Pole Euro. This, of course, counts for the grid position for the grand final, just to remind you. Now, on board then with Kylian Drumont, part of the team that made up the Nations Cup Championship winning outfit for Subaru back in 2022 and held in very high esteem within the Gran Turismo circles, bounced onto the scene in 2022. And ever since then, he has never looked back. But through the final corner of Ascari, or Alboreto, as it's now known, with Kylian Drumont here. And what can he do? We begin lap 11 out of 12. So 2 more to go then here for this one. And last time around through the Curva Grande is where we started seeing drivers pushing the limits, getting their elbows out as De Bruyne now hits the front. He's used that slipstream, used the inside line, and he's taken the race lead away.
And leading for the first time now is Kai De Bruyne, but for how much longer? Sasaki back through there. I thought there was contact between the two. That would have been a huge crash if there were. Kai De Bruyne is leading for now, but Tom, do you want to be leading? Oh, he's got a penalty.
Yeah, they're under investigation. They were under investigation.
No, it was a
track limits.
Oh, Kai De Bruyne again and again, just his own worst enemy. A 1 second penalty there. Let's have a look at the overtaking that he did to get into the lead in the first place. To me, this is fine until then. A little bit of contact between the two, and Labutale and Drumont had a little bit of contact as well. I don't really want to watch this right now. I want to watch the what's happening at the front of the field.
It's going to be into here, isn't it? Yeah, he just biffs into the back of Labutale, which sends him into the side of Drumont.
Can't do much there. If they're stopping on the apex and you're there, there's not much you can really do, I don't think. But a 1 second penalty is going to completely ruin his race. What a shame. That could have been a win for him.
Well, let's see how it works out. So he drops then down into 4th place. His only hope now is that those top 3 will still squabble. I mean, he's still in slipstreaming range. He's not out of the realms of possibility of this one. Can Kai De Bruyne have a fight back here on this final lap? So we come to start it then at Monza. It's Sasaki, Labutale and Drumont trailing off the back by 0.6 of a second. Is the luckless Kai De Bruyne. And keep an eye out for Jura and Gallo, who look set to start squabbling in behind. Here comes Labutale on Sasaki, down the start finish straight into the Curva Grande. Drumont makes it 3 abreast on the outside. wide is Drumont, in the middle is Labouchelet, on the inside here is Sasaki, who ducks out of it. He decides to let the two Frenchmen start battling amongst one another, and will wait for the opportunity to come his way. Into the De La Roche chicane, Drumont's got the inside line, Labouchelet's on the outside, Park's still on the apex. Nothing doing there for Sasaki because there's no opportunity to use any extra momentum that he had, and the upshot is coming through to the Lesmos. It's Drumont who's got the advantage, and De Bruyne is right back in the picture in fourth as well.
Yeah, French roadblock there. You can't help but think that might not have been a little bit coordinated by the guys in the blue Porsche 962s, just making sure no one else can attack. But Drumont leads now as we come into the last half of the last lap here in the sprint race. Labouchelet second, Sasaki third, and Kai De Bruyne, even with his penalty, holding on there in fourth position. Of course, reminders will set the grid for the grand final coming up after this. But Kylian Drumont looking like he's got this one sewn up, Tom.
Well, coming out onto the back straight and in towards the Parabolica, I have to say, I kind of agree with you. Half a second is the advantage he's got in his back pocket, and has Kylian Drumont pulled an absolute blinder here? Could we see a French 1-2 occupying the grid for the grand final? No one's close enough to send a lance through on the inside. They're going to have to now be relying on a mistake out of this final corner, which no one seems to make, and the upshot is it is going to be a French 1-2 in the sprint race. Kylian Drumont wins it from Thomas Labouchelet. Takuma Sasaki in third, ahead of Kai De Bruyne in fourth, with Jura completing the top five. Well, it promised so much, that race.